Hi, this is Nicole Selfan. I'll be facilitating today's call. I'm the Associate Director for the BERT team, and we're excited to have this call today.
Thank you, Nicole. Sade?
Hi, I'm Sade. Some of you may know me already. I am a program specialist with the BERT team, and I'm excited as well to see what you guys have planned for your upcoming plans so far with everything changing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sade. Vanessa?
Hi, I'm Vanessa Michelle, and I'm a program specialist of BERT, and I'm just excited to hear what everyone has to say.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa. Dr. Taylor?
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Taylor. I support the BERT team as a postdoc at the university in all of their evaluation and technical assistance needs.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. And again, as I said, I'm very, very excited to hear about your conversation today, and we will stay with you. I turn it over back to Nicole, and we will proceed with the meeting.
Yes, so, and then next I just wanted, you can go to the next slide, Vanessa. Just wanted to let OPHI introduce themselves. I believe they're all on the call.
Good morning. Oh, sorry. My times are messed up. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brooke Holmes, Program Administrator with the Office of Population Health Improvement at the Maryland Department of Health. As always, we are grateful for our contractors, the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, the BERT team, and their efforts to provide assistance and guidance to you all and help us in implementing all of our activities. Additionally, just a side note, I'm really excited to hear the voice of my friend, Dr. Taylor. So that was nice when she just introduced herself. So that's it for now. And I'll let Latiqua go, and then Costella after Latiqua.
Hi, everyone. My name is Latiqua Howley. I'm the region coordinator from Eastern and Southern Regions. I work with the prevention team with Brooke and Costella. Hello. I'm interested in listening to all the information provided on this phone call.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Costella Davis, the regional coordinator for the Western Central Regions, and I just want to second, third, fourth, and fifth everyone's expectations in regards to excited to hear what everyone has to say with the time and smile.
Okay, so today's objectives for this, everyone should be muted, but if you're So today's call has 4 main objectives. Just we want to be able that you will be able to describe how what changes have occurred due to COVID. Changes due to COVID have impacted prevention funding activities. Learn how some of your peers have adjusted their activities. We have 4 jurisdictions that are going to share some adjustments they have made just in these last few months. The BERT team is going to provide some ideas, recommendations for contingency plans moving forward, and then we're going to end with a discussion. So this will lots of using the raise hand option so that everyone can be able to answer some discussion questions that we have to go over all of these ideas. Next slide. So now we're going to invite these 4 jurisdictions, or each have share some with you something adjustments that they've been able to make so far. If you have any questions directed towards them, just please write them in the chat box and we'll quickly answer them before we move forward to the next part of the slides. So if Kayla and Anne Arundel wanted to go first, go right ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Just stay on that slide, Vanessa. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kayla Spiegel. I'm co-coordinator with Annapolis Substance Abuse Prevention in Anne Arundel County. And we have started doing our monthly coalition meetings via Zoom. We weren't sure how the first was going to go. We ended up
so I guess it's been just 2 since post-COVID. And we ended up sending our agenda and any information necessary ahead of time. Learned from that and realized it was easier to go ahead and share the screen to have our agenda and any other important information. So that's been going well. You know, in terms of engaging people in a strange way, it's almost more beneficial, because I know at our last meeting we did a team building activity, and you know, people were able to give feedback to the extent possible, but we actually had our document up on the screen. So in a way that was beneficial. Just typical technical barriers with, you know, virtual meetings, with, you know, just the things we've all been experiencing. Some folks are only able to call in. Some folks have issues clicking on the Zoom link, but, you know, we're just learning as we go. One thing is that in between meetings, I've tried to be a little bit more diligent about sending out, you know, dates and notes and things to keep people abreast of what's going on in between, just because we don't have that face-to-face time. But in general, it's been going pretty well. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted me to share, Nicole.
How's your coalition members reacted to it? Where were they all on board with kind of the adjustment, and most people still were able to attend?
Yeah, I mean, the first meeting was a little less, or I guess it was the second meeting we did was a little less attended. But the first meeting, you know, people seemed agreeable. And I think at that time, in everybody's personal and professional lives, everything was moving in that direction. So people were encouraged.
Great, thanks. And if anyone has any questions of how they were able to implement that, feel free to reach out. We can loop back around at some point during the call. So thank you for giving that adjustment of sort of like a capacity side of how things can be adjusted during these times.
Yeah,
now we'll move into the next jurisdictions that have made some adjustments to some implementation activities. So first we have Howard County. You can unmute yourself. Joan, you're unmuted now.
Nicole, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, it's Lizelle. Sorry. See, can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, I've got my phone open and the laptop. I think Joan's with us, so she's going to talk a little more about the implementation side, but we were able to keep going with our coalition meetings as well.
Okay.
And we had one scheduled, and what was it, like 10 days after we shut down. And a couple of the attendance has actually been better. I think it's a little easier for folks to join from home for some things. But Joan,
I unmuted
she says she's still muted in the chat box.
Yeah, she should be able to unmute herself. I keep on unmuting her. So there you are. I can see your thing moving.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, perfect, because it still shows me that I'm muted.
Perfect, I'll check out.
Thanks, Lizelle. Thanks, Nicole. I'm Joan Webb-Skornienchi with HC Drug Free. We're a nonprofit in Howard County, and we're contracted by the Howard County Health Department to provide prevention services. Nicole, you can tell me, did you want me to say more than Anne Arundel just did, or just leave it that short?
Like I said, you can go a little bit more, whatever. I'll cut you off if you're going too much.
Okay, that's good. We have 2 evidence-based programs that we were offering that we moved online. So the first one was school life skills classes, and HC Drug Free was to offer that twice in the school year. So once in the fall and once in the spring. We did it in the fall in person, and we were scheduled to start right a few days after schools closed because of COVID-19. So we use Botfin curriculum, and I think most of you are pretty familiar with Botvin's curriculum or have at least heard of it. And you know that means there are a minimum of 15 middle school classes that are in one series. So we registered 18 students prior to COVID-19. So for the in-person, after school, 2 days a week classes that we had planned. And our experience always is we lose some people no matter what we register for prior to anybody ever coming to the event or the first class. So we always like to leave a little bit of wiggle room there, but the classroom was part of our limitation. So we really didn't want to go over 20 kids. So we cut it off at that 18 point. For this current life skills class, we had 11 of those 18 registered students participate once we moved it online. So that's 61%. That's actually pretty good from our experience. Even once we would have registered them for in-person classes, we probably would have lost more than that along the way. So like all of you, when COVID-19 hit, we faced several challenges. And the first one was, we just didn't know what to think. We didn't know if schools would reopen. We didn't know if they'd let us back in the building. We didn't know if we would be allowed to be around kids, even if we moved it out of a school setting. So we made the decision to plan for the worst. And then by April 28th, we started those classes online. So we've held 12 of them out of the 15, and we're scheduled to have our final class on June 16th. Our second challenge was we purchased the materials for the in-person class. So we had those student manuals, but with COVID-19, we were afraid to mail anything. We're all getting told to wipe down the mail. So we made the decision that parents would probably be happier if we didn't mail their kids anything. So that gets us to the third challenge, which was Botvin's material, as again, you may know if you've used them, has a copyright. And they really protect that copyright. So, that's how they make their money. We understand that. I can't argue that point. But so we had a couple of calls with Botvin to try to figure out what could we do. So fortunately, because we've already purchased their manuals and we'd worked with them, they agreed to give us access to a limited time web-based view access. So I should say web access. And that means that the students could view the materials electronically. They couldn't print it. They couldn't save anything on their computers, and they couldn't write on it. They could just view it. So we used Zoom to hold our classes. We used Google Docs for students to type in their responses. And Google Docs works well because students already use that for school. So they enter their answers into Google Docs, hit submit, and then we have access to it. And we had students use their phones to access what's called Kahoot. Now, I didn't know what Kahoot was in the fall when we did the in-person class and used it, but maybe some of you do, especially if you have kids. The Kahoot is a good tool for true, false, or short multiple choice questions. And again, the kids are comfortable using it. From the moment we said, pull out your phones and go on Kahoot, like they just did it. So again, my learning curve is showing, and the kids are ahead of us. So kids think Kahoot's fun because it's like playing a game online. They compete against each other. It gives them a score, and then Kahoot shows who's the top winner. So again, if you're doing something with kids, I strongly encourage you to at least look at programs like that. We found that Kahoot's a really good way to review what we already went over in class. Because again, that quick true, false, what do you think? Here are 4 choices. And that was a great way for us to check in because some of the kids didn't even put their cameras on. And because we moved to this platform so quickly, we didn't make that a requirement. We didn't know to make it a requirement. If I do this again, I would know to say if your kid's going to participate in a class, they really need to be on camera. Because one, it's hard for the teachers to teach to a black box when you're teaching middle school kids. And two, I think it's harder for the kids to even, for us to know what they're doing, but for them to even pay attention. So we shared our computer screens a lot on Zoom, And we used a lot of Bodmin videos, YouTube videos, some of the information that NIDA puts out, the National Institute on Drug Abuse. We emailed parents reminders before classes as needed. I had phone and email communications with the individual parents throughout the time. So how did we get even 11 of these original 18 students to participate? Because that's kind of the big question. And I emailed each parent on the original registration list to let them know that we were moving the class online. And then I called parent who didn't respond to my emails, and that was a lot of them. And I have to say that my secret weapon in this life skills class has really been my instructional team. And the team is an amazing, talented 20-year-old college student working with me, and 2 teens from HC Drug Free Teen Advisory Council. And I have a parent volunteer, so she has 2 children in college. So I think it's good because parents look online or can look at any given point throughout the class and see this entire team in our HC Drug Free t-shirt, so it's clear that we're the instructors. Oh, and I should say that sometimes we've had another 20-something recent college grad who was on our teen advisory council, and now he's looking for something to do this summer before his real job starts in the fall. So he's been great about offering his opinion for these kids. And middle school kids listen to what high school and college kids tell them. You know, when it comes to what you're going to face in high school, I don't know that they really want to hear it from me, but they certainly do want to hear what's going on in real time from these high school kids. So my role in all of this is just to ask the young team members questions, you know, if we hit that quiet part in the class, and to keep them moving forward and thinking about situations. And of course, you know, as the adult and the supervisor to all of this, you know, I look at it from the perspective of what are we in the field, what do parents want these kids to know? So what is that, and make sure that my team addresses that. So I know that was
I was just going to ask, we have one question. Did you have any students that weren't able to participate because of like computer technology or internet access?
The short answer is, to my knowledge, I don't know for sure, but since Howard County Schools made sure every student had access to a computer and the internet, then what I heard from everyone around me was that should not be a problem with any student in Howard County. So if it was, I just don't know that, Nicole. And that's part of the challenge of, you know, emailing and calling people. But since I did get through to at least what seemed like reasonable answering machines, and in some cases confirming the number or confirming the name, that even if a parent didn't have internet access or a computer, I would think that they still could have and would have, well, they had the option to call me back, let's say that, and to tell me that, because we made that real clear, you know, especially in all my messages, if a parent hadn't replied through email, that just call me back or text me, and don't let computer access be an issue in any way, because we wanted to resolve all of that.
Okay, thank you. And I know you guys also did parents, but I sort of, but if we have time, we'll come back around. Maybe during the discussion, you can share some advice from that side of things.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so next we're going to have Worcester, who also has been able to move to a virtual approach. Lynn, are you on the phone, on the call?
Is Nicole, is Mimi or Dave Baker on?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there she goes.
So I'm Kelsey.
Oh, Kelsey, sorry about that.
I don't think Lynn is on, but I don't think that her call is working very well. He called in, so I don't know if that's an issue, but I can share some of the updates.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we have moved the nurturing parenting class to a Google Classroom format. The main issue that we've had with that is people wanting to take the class but don't have access to the internet or a computer. And then to use Google Classroom, they must have a Gmail account, which is free. If they're viewing the assignments on Google Classroom on their phone, it's too small and hard for them to read. So that's another problem that they're having with that one. And then a way around that is to email the assignments and then talk over Google Meet rather than using the Google Classroom format. Guiding good choices. The main issue with that class is they're having a hard time getting people to sign up. So they're currently exploring new ways to advertise the Guiding Good Choices class. And then we also offer life skills after school programs in our elementary schools and middle schools. So what we are doing now is we are emailing one lesson out to the elementary school students that we already had enrolled and one lesson out to the middle school students that we already had enrolled to continue their participation in the after school programs. And we gathered those email addresses from the parents prior to school closing. And then the main issue that we've had with that is just getting the kids to return the activities each week. We just think that they're a little overwhelmed with online learning, but they do all have access to computers because Worcester County provided that for them. And then their parents are just wanting to prioritize, you know, their actual schoolwork rather than the after school work. We are offering incentives for them turning in after school work. So if a student does turn it in, we will send them something in the mail based off of how many assignments they have completed. And then also we have just started a youth teen, we're calling it Healthy Youth newsletter. And we are doing that monthly. We just did our June newsletter and we're working on our July now. And we've included topics like stress busters, healthy eating. We promote our Just Walk program. We do alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention. And if you guys would like us to share this with you, we can.
Yeah, I think that'd be great if you could share that.
Awesome.
Thank you for all your ideas and how you guys were able to make adjustments to so many strategies. And then last we have Garrett, who also had some adjustments to a different type of outreach strategy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. From Garrett County, I made two different adjustments to the LMPP grant. Normally we give out, but to figure something out since the National Take Back Day was postponed and they didn't have it. So I had watched and listened to a webinar from the Prescription Drug Summit on Datura pouches, and I reached out to them to ask them how we could measure what people were disposing of, you know, in the pouches and were they using them. So they shared with me a card that one of the people there used, and I had it created and attached it to the Datura pouches. On the back of the card, it has what is the name of the medication or medications you're disposing of. Is it a prescription medication? How many tablets, pills, or capsules? And what county do you live in? And it's a stamped card and they can mail it back. So what I did is I distributed those to the pharmacies, and I'm hoping that, you know, people will start using those. And that way I can measure it a little bit. Then the second thing that I did, thanks to Nicole had sent me some modules that the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy had created about opioids. And I was able to, what I was supposed to do is have a training, but of course, because of I had to postpone it. So I thought, well, I looked at these modules that Nicole sent me, and I had my IT department put the slides on a learning platform. And then I created cards and delivered to the pharmacies for the pharmacists and the pharmacy techs. If they completed 3 of the modules, which I put up, and then completed the short 2-question quiz after each module, they would get a gift certificate to. So not only would it help with educating them, it was going to help local it to them, and I had 16 complete that. I would have to have seen more, but we only have 54, so that's not too bad.
Great. I just have a quick follow-up for your doTERRA bags. How were those are distributed through the pharmacy, or how are you? Did you make any adjustments of how you were distributing the doTERRA bags, or that you were just following the same protocol, but then also including the postcard with them?
Following the same. Actually, I added it to the pharmacies. If they wanted doTERRA bags, I would give them to them. But since the take back was canceled, well, I just go ahead and distribute all the pharmacies that were asking, because in our county, 2 of our Dropbox locations were closed during COVID, the one at Maryland Police and Oakland City Hall. So there was only one Dropbox that was open, and then Take Back Day was canceled. So I kind of felt like I needed to do something so that people could dispose of their medications.
Great. Thank you for these updates. If anyone has any questions, like I said, for what Garrett has shared, please feel free to add those in the chat box and we'll get back to them. So now we're going to move on. Thanks everyone for sharing, to just some recommendations moving forward through the SPIF process within these times. So Vanessa, you can go to the next slide. So we kind of broken this down to the different areas of the process that we're really working on. So if you think about capacity building is actually a great time of the process where you really can take advantage of sort of this lull in programmatic activity. Some examples of activities that you can do right now and moving forward, even as things start to go back to normal, would include media advocacies. This would be, really helpful of pushing some of your letters to the editor or op-eds, whatever issue you're really advocating for, you can start really pushing that awareness out. Virtual coalition meetings like Anne Arundel County shared, and we heard from Howard County as well, which seems like sometimes you can get even more engagement just because of the ease of fitting that into their schedule. Virtual town halls and community conversations. This is a great opportunity right now for you to really build that awareness of your prevention activities, why prevention matters, what is prevention, hosting all of these types of events with your community to just bring awareness to what you're doing and all the underlying factors that relate to substance use and substance use prevention. Other ways is to just promote substance use prevention topics. Sounds like what Worcester kind of pushing out some sort of newsletter is a great idea, but then just even using your regular social media. Build an awareness of your coalition and prevention activities. So we know you guys have had coalitions that have done great work, as well as all the activities that you have been doing, but maybe sometimes the community at large is unaware of how much efforts and impact you have been making. So this is a great time to just push that out, try and get some community awareness of your activities, do your elevator pitches and get more people to know who you are and maybe how they can be involved in the work that you do. As well as just general community outreach, using some other mechanisms to just build, awareness or just outreach. So I know a lot of you love going to these community events and setting up tables. So some virtual or other ways to kind of do that now would be through Facebook and Instagram Live, as well as just, podcasts that exist, or creating your own podcast. Use some, people in your community to think of some other approaches to kind of do what you would do at an in-person community outreach event, but bring those sort of online. So next slide. So then when it comes to adjustments for implementation, one thing that's really important to remember is that there's 3 sort of components to your implementation step. There's the planning activities, the actual intervention, and the activities that relate to that, and then evaluation. So if you think about planning, so if you go to the next slide. So when it comes to planning, we always sort of kind of speed through these steps. Sometimes we're going to rush into the intervention steps, which makes sense. But here, this is a great time for us to sort of slow it down and take a step back and really go deeper into our planning. So some questions to consider during this time that maybe we can focus on is, can we collect more data on our target population? Maybe we can dig a little deeper to who we're doing outreach to, and really then become a little more specific to that population, so our interventions can reach who really needs to be reached. So going from a universal to maybe a targeted targeted intervention. So are there another question to consider, are there other stakeholders we can reach out to collaborate with, right? So we've talked about doing community mapping and sort of seeing who might we benefit from working with, and identifying those gaps in stakeholder engagement, right? So these are great times to set up those phone calls and have one-on-one meetings and really learn more about our other stakeholders, so then we can figure out where how we can work together and work in a more collaborative effort. Another thing is what other programs are in our community that target similar outcomes, is to sort of assess what else is going on in your jurisdictions. What other programs are being implemented by maybe other groups that maybe target that same either parents or youth, say middle schoolers or high schoolers. And is there an overlap? So is there a way to then maybe work together as we move forward, rather than trying to pull from the same population? And this might contribute to why it's really hard to recruit, because you have multiple programs trying to recruit the same audiences. So something to think about, which you can kind of look into as you're going through your planning steps.
Hey, Nicole.
Yeah.
Did you mention in the data about the secondary data?
No, you can share that.
Okay. Just a reminder that when you're thinking about data, remember that the data that you already have, the secondary data that you did when you did your assessment, is an additional tool this is a great time to go back and review. Maybe you're using 2016 data or 2017 data, and now there's 18 and 19 data that's actually available of the same collection that you've already gathered toward your target population. So don't forget to go back and look at that data again. And again, as Nicole was saying, this is a great time to collect more data. So that's a part of that step in reviewing it and looking to see, well, what do the trends look like now? Is the target population that I focused on still the population that I need to be focused on as I'm putting my efforts towards the community? That was it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, all right, so we can go to the next slide. So then our intervention steps, and these are kind of going off of what some of the jurisdictions have shared. So is it possible to transition in-person programming to online? And are the current curriculums that you had utilized, are they able to be implemented virtually? We heard 2 different ways of how these programs can sort of be taken virtually. Howard County actually is holding the online class, whereas Worcester is just sort of doing a modified approach of emailing the lessons and then having this participants send them back. So 2 different ways to implement a program using the ways that we have. And then also identifying alternative approaches for drug take-back events. This is This is like what Garrett shared with us, to try and think of maybe other ways to distribute maybe some of those disposal tools and information, since we aren't able to maybe have some take back events, or access to some of the drug take back boxes have been limited. People don't feel comfortable going out to do that. And then another thing is, like I said before, is sort of figuring out how to reach out to your target audience to maintain engagement, and really also just bring them knowledge and, hit in some of your other areas that you're trying to get them to change maybe through your strategy, but kind of doing some sub steps while your specific strategy can't be implemented. You can at least still maintain that engagement. And so one way to do this is live streaming using social media. So we're gonna go a little more into that. If Vanessa, you can go to the next slide. So what is live streaming? Live streaming is broadcasting live video via different web-based applications to an online audience. And you don't need any special equipment beyond a smartphone or your computer. Next. So what are some different platforms for live streaming? So there's Facebook Live, YouTube, and Instagram. And so we pulled this information from this social media toolkit that I'm going to be able to send out. But one thing that Instagram does now allow you to archive your lives if you save it to Instagram TV. And so all these other platforms, there's ways to then broadcast and then save it so people can also view what you shared at a later time. Next. So why live stream at a local health department? So live streaming allows real-time information to immediately reach your existing audience, and through shares and paid promotion, you can further extend your reach to your community. As a video format, it can put a human face on your department and build connection with your community, and also creates opportunities for the public to ask questions live. So it helps serve as a form of public engagement and feedback. So what are some things that you can broadcast using live streaming? Breaking news or trending topics, really relevant for today's. So really, sharing things that are up to date, to just push it out and let people be able to have that live contact with you. And you can even link it back to substance use prevention, major announcements, media briefings, campaign launches. This is something to really think about, since a lot of you are continuing on you're able to still continue your social marketing campaigns as well, and putting out your messages. But one of the key components actually of a campaign is having to launch a campaign. So if none of you have actually ever launched it, you can almost use this time to do like a relaunch of maybe some of your new messages, or just to like put this date as like, as of this day, we relaunched it, and you can measure if there's any difference of doing it this way. And so with the launch, you're sort of telling people that you're pushing out this campaign, what it's about, what its goal is, and then they'll be more aware of these messages, maybe seeing the messages and actually already knowing what their purpose is, rather than just sort of letting them go in the background of their mind. Other things, like I said, are interviews and Q&As. This can be really helpful of thinking about peer-to-peer engagement. So if you have parent groups that you worked with before, maybe you can invite some past parents to do like some sort of Q&A, and they can share about programs. It can help with like further recruitment for the next time you're going to be doing an activity, so they can hear from parents of who have gone through and what they've learned. And then also using Instagram Live to really reach youth, and having youth talk to youth. And that's you can kind of set it up and figure out for them to promote it, and then you can host those. So next slide. And so these are just some snippets of general practices for live streaming. So you just want to let your audience know when it's coming, write a compelling description for your video before going live. You want to be able to respond to the questions and comments that you've received. Ask the viewers to follow you. This can be really helpful for you guys to build your social media presence if you are able to engage new viewers, then they can start following you. You want to make sure that your live stream is not too short, but also not too long. We don't want to lose people. And then you also want, one tip is to not publish any posts immediately before or after, just so that it can reach as many people as possible. So those are some tips. And like I said, we pulled this from a toolkit. So we'll be able to share that with you as well. Once, like someone asked, I will be sending the slides to go along with those for you. So next slide. So then like the last component of implementation is evaluation steps that basically go through the action steps that will help you to evaluate, which is obviously its own step within the process as well. So going through your evaluation plans and kind of seeing are we up to date in all our data that needs to be collected? What still needs to be collected? Or like Michelle said, is there any secondary data that we can look at right now and maybe do some additional analysis to see what's new and current and any updates to our outcomes that we're trying to track. To develop new tools during this time, some surveys or focus groups, and we can help you out to help pull some of the current research or literature to help design some really strong surveys to look at the knowledge, attitudes, behaviors to help kind of guide you to either evaluate the impact of your strategies, and then really design those dissemination protocols. So utilize your partners to really build how you can reach everybody in your community to get to increase your results for your evaluations. So after this, that's just some of our recommendations, just some ideas, I guess I should say, not really recommendations, ideas to think about. And so hopefully maybe you guys have kind of gone through these thoughts, maybe through here and everyone, we came up with some new ideas. So now we want to kind of have enough time. It looks like we have almost 40 minutes to be able to let everyone kind of go through, and I see that you guys have been doing great conversations in the chat box, and now hopefully we can do some sharing back and forth during this discussion. We have some pre-identified questions that I think some of this will come up with, answer some of your questions and kind of go off of what we have provided. So if people would like to talk, you can raise your hand. Vanessa can tell you how to do that because she showed me before, if there's questions on how to do that, as well as if you can't figure it out, definitely just chat in the box that you have a question and we can be like, go ahead and talk. So Vanessa, if you want to go to the next slide. So this is just sort of open it up of just thinking about what are some other ways to reach your audience to implement any of your programs or activities. And the raise hand feature is next to your name. So we've heard from some people, but if anyone else who has figured out or thought about other ways that they are able to reach their audience. Carroll County, you guys shared something in the chat box. I'm going to pick on you to talk out loud.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So with some of the things that we've done, of course, other people have done, I've jotted down lots of notes, with the virtual or after school programs with the Boys and Girls Club. We do something called Smart Girls. We've been doing that virtually. But we've also, because we're not going into the schools, and so a lot of our campaigns, and our strategies were in the schools. We have started with our Trembling Giant Marketing, our Dear Future Me campaign, where we're posting. And I know Michelle McVeigh, my coworker, is on here, so she probably has more of the technical sense. But we're doing the Facebook post and all. We did one where we were actually engaging with the Boys and Girls Club, and where they were giving us quotes and such and posting, and then we could start a dialogue. And now we're going to be doing with the school. And they've already made arrangements, that the parents know, to go on and check these sites. It's our Wreck It or Not in Carroll, and then our health department site. And then also another way to reach people, and especially we had to cancel like our first responders dinner with our OMPP grant. So with that, we we put some of the monies into billboards, but also we're going to do mailings. And the mailings going out to approximately 30 to 40,000 houses. And it's again with our, marketing people when they're taking our information from our rack cards about don't run, call 911, and, on our websites, it's never worth it. And our information for proper disposal, which lists all 11 24/7 disposal sites. And it's a complete 2-page ad in the center. So when you open up this mailer, you have everything there, and then it has information for you to call. And we're going to be doing that also with our Dear Future Me post. We're taking our posters that we have in the schools and such, and we're going to be doing that in this mailer going out to these families. Again, our presentations, our prevention office was supposed to present nationally at the NCAD conference. We were supposed to go to California and actually in Baltimore. So we're going to do that virtually August 2nd. And then, and also I'm doing something with the Army. That's a Wednesday. And again, it's all virtual and it's special accommodations. It's going out to 500 bases. And it's about the DEA operation prevention that we do in the schools. Because they are trying to do something on all the Army bases for the children that are at home. And the mention with the distributing of Datura bags, we did ours, if you didn't see it, also with, we had a pop-up drive-through giving food to the needy. And these are high-risk population anyway. And we put the Datura bags right in their boxes of groceries. And for our anti-stigma campaigns that we're doing, we had children that we had access to. I had many grandchildren, and they drew anti-stigma messages on the bags, which was a big hit. They were just really nice. And right now we're actually painting rocks with anti-stigma messages and positive messaging for the COVID-19 testing centers out here in Carroll County to keep the papers from blowing away and that type of thing. So those are a couple of the things that we're doing.
Thanks. So we did have a question about strengthening families. And so Mindy, you kind of touched on it in the chat box, but if you can quickly just share how you guys are reaching that audience.
Sure. So I'm not the lead on that program, but I helped with the distribution. We sort of divided and conquered because there were a lot of families in lots of different areas we had to get manuals to, and we just decided that the most effective way to do that was to collect the manuals from the office and distribute them to the individual homes. And Louise is the lead on that program, so she's conducting the classes, and she got a separate Zoom account because I'm not as familiar with it to be the one talking about it, but I know that she uses breakout rooms, and that's something that's beyond. It's a complexity of Zoom that I'm just not familiar with. But she's doing all of those classes virtually using Zoom, and the participants at home just have their manuals in person.
Great, thank you. And Steve B, do you want to talk, or I can just read out loud what you shared in the chat box?
Can you hear me? This is Ben Stevenson from Montgomery County.
That's Ben. I didn't know what stand. Okay, perfect. That makes sense. Now I understand you.
How's everybody doing? Yeah. So in Montgomery County, with the whole COVID-19, we just were trying to find some innovative ways just to try to stay engaged in the county and doing prevention work and things like that. And so we were able to partner with within HHS to partner with Aging and Disabilities because they kind of consider seniors being a vulnerable population during this time, and they knew that population would have a lot of medication on hand and things like that. And so we were able to work with them in regards of reaching out to different contacts at different senior centers throughout the county and distribute Datura pouches. We partnered with another department and put together a like a PSA that went out through Comcast, through Effective on TV and digital, to emphasize safe storage and disposal, but also with the emphasis on social distancing. I know at this point we probably since about March we were able to get out about 1,000 doTERRA pouches. And I know like our Dare to Be You program has still been, engaging with their families and stuff like that, just to try to, on a virtual platform basis, either via Zoom, Google Meet, and they've also been, just using like standard conference calls just to try to keep engaged and help families out during this time. So we've just been trying to be innovative just to try to keep things going. And I know looking forward to like FY21, we're thinking in that same regard. So, yeah.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
I think we can go to the so for the people that are using Zoom, can anyone speak how they're using the Zoom platform? Since as the health department themselves are not supposed to be having Zoom accounts. Anyone?
Well, so I know for us in Montgomery County, you're only so we've been using the free version of Zoom. So like right now you can use Zoom for up to 40 minutes. And we've learned that, sometimes it's kind of hard to keep people engaged in those online platforms anyway. So we typically just been using it. Well, in the county, we also have what they call Microsoft Teams. So we've been using that as well. But sometimes, like if we have like brief meetings or need to connect with someone, we may set up a quick Zoom call or something like that with like community organizations and things like that. So it's just been more so of like a meeting place. But I do know like some of our prevention providers in the county who are not, I guess, restricted by, the guidelines and things like that. They've utilized Zoom to try to connect with their clients and parents and youth and things like that.
Yeah, and I can say, Michelle, that like I think you're allowed to like access Zoom. Because I know that I've still held Zoom meetings with other MDH partners. I think you just can't be the host. So if you're able to just use one of your partners, if they have an account, to sort of be the host and utilize it that way, it should be able to work. Sheila said that they pay for a Zoom account to be able to use it for their coalition meetings as well as some tips trainings. So, okay, we can go to the next question. I think we touched on some of this, but actually this is sort of then some of the barriers or concerns about virtual outreach programs. So I guess in a way, oh, Holly, you're on. Do you want to talk? I see that you unmuted yourself. Muted again. Oh, before we move on, I think Jennifer, you have your hand raised. You want to speak real quick?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to comment to the question before this one. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm Jem Wysong. I'm representing Kent County Health Department. I work for Recovery in Motion at the AF Whitsitt Center. I just wanted to touch a little bit about what we're doing for our prevention aspect during COVID. I teamed up as an ambassador for a nonprofit called Shatterproof, and we teamed up together for a campaign called Choices Matter. It's a national education campaign aimed at empowering patients to proactively discuss pain management, including non-opioid options with their doctors before surgery. I was a part of this documentary that they filmed me and 2 other people on. We filmed last year, and we've been doing some screenings. We did New York and we did California. And before the shutdown, we planned on having some right here in Chestertown, Maryland, where I live. And obviously we can't do that at this time, but before the shutdown, we did have the screening at the town hall in Rock Hall, and we're trying to get it implemented into schools if possible to focus on the prevention side of things rather than, just focusing on treatment after the addiction has started. And if anybody's interested, on seeing the film, it's actually really great. It's gatewayfilm.com, and it focuses on a doctor who performs surgeries, specifically cesarean sections without opioids, a mother who lost her child to opioid addiction, and then myself featured as a recovering addict now working in the peer support field. So we're trying really hard to get this implemented into schools and the community. We've teamed up with Shatterproof Live. I know you were discussing the live streams. That's kind of what we're able to do right now. It's our only option, but we've been able to reach across the states, which is really amazing, being able to use this platform of technology. So, and I know a lot of people had touched on doTERRA. We're doing virtual Narcan trainings and social distancing drop-offs for Narcan, doTERRA bags, and peer support groups as well online. So I just kind of wanted to touch base on what we were doing here in Kent County. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Hey, Nicole, this is Brooke.
Uh-huh.
I see a comment, it's probably in reference to what Ben was mentioning during his, when he was talking about what they're doing in Montgomery County. And the question is with regard to Zoom, or not a question, but a statement.
Zoom. Go to the next slide because it's related to any barriers. There you go.
So one thing, I want to make sure that we are all clear on what the rule is. So any self-rule jurisdictions, this will not apply. This only applies to those who are under the Maryland Department of Health. Okay, and we received correspondence from the Chief Information Security Officer for MDH on April 6th. I think that's the one, in which it talked about prohibiting the use of Zoom to host teleconferences or to have an account using a maryland.gov email address. However, within that same email, what it said was that we could still participate or join a Zoom meeting that was hosted by another organization or vendor. And one of the ways that you do that is not by downloading the Zoom app, but by accessing the Zoom meeting through your web browser and having to enter in a meeting ID that is provided to you. I did make sure to run this past Matt Otwell, who is the Chief Information Security Officer. So I want to make sure that we're not spreading incorrect information around and that we actually understand what is being asked of us. No, do not download the Zoom application. No, do not have an account with your MDH, with your Maryland.gov email account, but you can participate in a meeting as long as you're entering the web address in your web browser and entering the Zoom, the meeting ID.
So this is a great opportunity to partner with your partner agencies or organizations that they would be the host and you be joining in as a participant. So that's a great utilization of partnerships.
And additionally, we have other options at the state. Of course, you have Google. I am told we have, there's a Skype option and a Microsoft Teams. Those
is great. We have, and there's WebEx like we use. I think the
WebEx
you can have the breakout rooms as well now. So I know that's really what's nice with Zoom is if you can do the breakouts if you're doing a programmatic type of a session. But we are pulling together different overviews of the different platforms. So if you need any assistance on those, just reach out and we can help give you pros and cons or what goes into the different virtual platforms.
Yes.
So are there I know one of the other concerns, I don't know if someone in some of the jurisdictions that kind of are maybe more rural, that was brought up before was sort of like this in regards to access to internet as well as then also access to technology. I don't know if any jurisdictions have come to that as sort of like a barrier around virtual outreach and programming, or if they have found any solutions to this barrier. Anybody that had that with reaching virtually?
Nicole.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This lady from Garrett County. I haven't used it, but I know that our county, of course, is very rural. They put in local hotspots like at the library and different locations where some people could walk to those locations. I know that some of the parents were driving their children to these locations to actually finish their schoolwork because Garrett County, like I said, is very rural, and the internet, we don't like have to go off of a hotspot to lines even further out of town. So I do know that there's local hotspots that have went up.
All right, if anyone, as we move on, like has any suggestions for terms of barriers, feel free to put those in the chat box. We'll go to the next kind of discussion point. So we heard sort of like what some people have done so far. Has anyone else kind of thinking and moving into FY21? Are there any new ideas that you're thinking of maybe implementing in terms of your implementation, outreach, planning, or evaluation right now with kind of like these different ways to kind of reach your audience? If you have any questions about that to ask, remember, use this to ask questions to each other. This is what this time is for. Call some people out.
Yeah, this is Brooke again. I'm piggybacking on what Nicole is saying, that throughout our feedback, our sessions, technical assistance sessions, many jurisdictions, and even before then, many jurisdictions were asking to have something like this or be able to find out what's going on. And so we want to oblige and we want to do that. But if for those who are not engaging in the conversation, we're not able to help you if you don't share with us. So we'd really like, we appreciate all the participation that's been happening so far, but we'd really like for you to continue to do that. And this is the best space to answer those questions. And when you get a chance, when we come back, Nicole, there was something else I saw in the chat box that I wanted to respond to, but it has nothing to do with this question. So.
Okay. Seco will have unmuted themselves. If anyone wants to start talking, if not, I did have one. I saw one thing that. Anybody? I did see how, Pat, you had mentioned something about you guys did a drive-through health fair, some sort like that. Are you a physician?
Yeah, I'm here. We've had so many different community events canceled because of COVID-19 that our District Heights Municipal Center wanted to do something because a way to reach out to their community. So we had our first community health fair where people drove around and pulled down their windows and just asked questions. So everybody had a table for different programs that participated, and a lot of programs that couldn't come just donated information. But I was there and they wanted to know, because a lot of people are starting to, in our county, substance abuse is rising, especially our kids are experimenting now with mushrooms. Mm-hmm. So they just had a lot of questions. So it was a good event because they were able to ask questions about their youth and using and what solutions and just some resources. Because apparently when they hear the message about you can get some treatment, they didn't know if the health department was still open for that or how to utilize those services. So that event was a great event because a lot of people had questions, a lot of questions about what to do in reference to substance abuse and getting the information just so they could just read up on it. It wasn't that important before, but now it's starting to become important in their household.
Great, and it had a pretty good turnout.
Yes, we had about 150 cars come up on Saturday. So that was really good.
Great.
I had another thing, a question that I had as far as you're talking about contingency plans. I'm just trying because we try to do some things because of the COVID-19 on how to add messages on to, we're telling people to be safe because we're having the rise of alcohol and substance abuse use. How do we do that? Because I see that as a platform that we can use to start getting information out to people on what resources they can use. But because of the way things are going, I just think this is going to be a part of our lives for a minute. And how do we reach out? Because we aren't, even though they're starting to open up different phases, virtual learning is going to be a part of it. And our social marketing plan can be a big help to a lot of people getting assistance and learning about prevention, like we've been talking all afternoon. But it would be great if we can have some pointers on that. I mean, you've talked about Zoom and all those things, but how do we take the information that's going out now about the COVID-19 and just using our prevention strategies as a way to get the information out? To combine them both, to partnership. That's what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's so you want to keep on getting your information out. That's where it's sort of that capacity or planning steps of sides of things, or just keeping that engagement. When it comes to like how to sort of, figure out different ways to approach to your implementation activities, and using virtual platforms is a way. Now, I don't know if you guys, someone asked where you are from. So this is Pat from Prince George's County. But I wasn't sure, like, that's something to do with in terms of access to technology. Is that a concern of yours? And that's something that, we're trying to brainstorm if anyone else besides reaching people via technology, how to still reach maybe some of their youth or families or parents to continue sort of the programmatic activities if there isn't a virtual platform. It seems like that one idea is maybe sending the packets and having phone calls, not as engaging, but at least in some way. We can obviously provide you with the different virtual platforms. Even if you want to think about connected substance use to what's going on, this is, I think, a great way to do some of these virtual town halls or the live streams where you have this opportunity for Q&A with your community and sort of promote that. And then from there, you build some awareness and of even like what prevention activities exist. And that's why I was saying you might be able to get people to then sign up or ask how they can, participate in some of the efforts that you already have always been doing.
Can I, Nicole, this is Brooke, because I think I want to make sure that we understand. Well, Pat can say if that answered her question or not. But what I believe I heard Pat ask more was about how you bridge the messages that have already been approved for your respective strategies with COVID-19 related messaging, or how you make it appeal or apply to COVID-19.
Yes, Brooke, that's what I was saying. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it goes back to, I think you can always tie it in, because this is where I was saying how even like where there is this connection to, you can sort of always tie in COVID-19 depending on to what your target area is for your strategy. So if you're talking about storage and disposal, obviously more people are at home, so that kind of heightens why you need to like check, monitor and dispose your drugs, because there's more people around. You can also really highlight, because you're having more family time, you can kind of push a lot of parenting messaging and discussion. So sort of like frame your original bullet point to COVID. So like, due to these times of COVID, you're more at home. I don't know, like you can play around with making it sound pretty, but just sort of like there is a connection. And I think that's a good question because I think it kind of gives you a way to sort of tie. You also have the research that shows that people who use drugs are more at risk for COVID. And so some of those things you can bring, you know, kind of to connect it as the increased access to alcohol. So we have all the, you know, to-go alcohol now. So you can really tie a lot of, like, yeah, like Michelle said, there is a lot of information. Big organizations like NIDA and other such partners, agencies, or big national organizations have sort of been putting out there. So definitely follow those types of organizations.
Nicole, your phone keeps going, your audio keeps going in and out a little bit, Nicole, but
I think because someone else was on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It might be just that, but okay.
May I add to what you just said though?
Yeah, go for it.
I think that additionally, for everyone, that ways to make your messaging also relatable is one of the points that was brought up previously was about capacity building and looking at all of your partners. So we have you when you filled out your FY21 application and your FY20 application, you have to fill out this capacity building part. So you have partners in treatment, you have the overdose fatality review program. Get information and data from these different groups and partners and use that to I guess combine with your message or more to enhance your message, again, so that it's relatable, because there are a lot of things that are happening and substance use disorder or those who have substance use disorder have been affected by this time during COVID for a plethora of reasons. And we know what those are. So we certainly encourage you to put those messages out there and find a connection. And I want to make sure that I make this point and that everyone is reminded that the only thing that OPHI, MDH is asking of you is that you share that information with us so that we know what's going on and that we can provide you approval. But sometimes we get requests that need to go out within a couple of days and we don't always have that turnaround time. But nonetheless, just send that information to us so that we can provide you whatever guidance and approval to move forward.
Great. I think we can go to the next discussion question. So this is just a follow-up in terms of like contact with your coalitions. We heard from Anne Arundel County and briefly from Howard County. If anyone else would like to share how you've been able to maintain contact with your coalitions and community partners and keep that engagement continuing, if you haven't been able, if you've gone virtual, if you've just done more emails. So if anyone would like to share or have any questions to go back to those jurisdictions that have been able to keep contact with their coalitions. And then, yeah. Brooke, do you want to go and mute yourself again?
Oh, can I add? That's the only reason why I did. Oh, I was just going to say that we had a OFR call on Friday, and one of the things that was mentioned, and I wonder if it's true for other groups that you have, that it has been actually a little bit better as far as maintaining contact and having engagement, in the sense that more people are able to participate when other times they might not have been able to. But now, since COVID, more partners, and some partners who really weren't engaged have been able to participate in the meetings and things like that. So I wonder if that's true for other groups.
All right, people, start calling a jurisdiction out.
Hi, this is Jackie from Cecil County. Sorry. I was just going to share that we started meeting virtually with our Drug-Free Cecil Youth Coalition prior to going stay at home and teleworking. So I think March 16th was the first weekly meeting. And so we've been meeting with the Drug Free Cecil Youth Coalition regularly, weekly, and then even added that's a community-based coalition. And then also we have had weekly lunch and learn series that's been another day of the week, so on Thursdays. So at both on the lunch and learns, we've had different speakers, and it just was this another nice way for the youth to meet, to receive some information. We had our superintendent of schools be a speaker. We had our media sector who pushes out all of our PSAs from used to be called Comcast, but it's Effect TV. We've had our evaluator be a speaker, just different speakers, and it was the youth really enjoyed the lunch and learns, and our weekly meetings have been really great. The youth actually have been leading them the different sections, and someone, I can't remember who, mentioned about the breakout sessions. They did that too. That was the breakout groups was a really neat touch. Our Lowford, I I know I see Miriam on the call here too, but our Mike told me that our Lowford has transitioned to virtual meetings, and the second meeting is tomorrow. With our Drug Free Cecil, we've met, like I said, regularly, and then even our MSPIF coalition has met virtually. The kids do get checked out a little bit, at this point, and so we've given them a break. But we haven't had too much trouble meeting virtually. And actually, some people who couldn't normally make meetings from our Drug Free communities sector meetings have been able to make some of them.
Nicole, don't hurt me. I see someone in the chat, Kath.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. Yeah.
Oh. And I had a response for that, but go ahead.
Sure. The just read it out in case no one has seen the chat. But in terms of the Zoom fatigue or Zoom burnout, with everything being online, if anyone, how people are helping their community partners deal with this fatigue, and then even so that she feels a little burnout. So, any suggestions?
I have a couple, and one I would say, which it seems to be difficult to do this right now just because these stay-at-home orders and all of this other stuff. But one thing is to potentially try to have less meetings or spread out the time intervals between meetings. I think that's one thing. And then additionally, I believe that you could incorporate different like mindfulness, wellness activities during your meeting. That might help kind of set the tone or kind of get your mind off of what it is that you're doing. But those are just a couple of suggestions, maybe cutting down the frequency of the meetings, and then incorporating some sort of activity, mindfulness or wellness activity within the meeting when you do have them.
Brooke, can I tag on to that? We do
Sure.
do that in our drug-free Cecil Youth Coalition meetings. They have an icebreaker. It's always like a fun activity. One of them was even, we all sent a baby picture and they had to guess who was who. So, like you said, some fun stuff like that. And also, who's awesome, you're awesome, where someone in the coalition's being like praised, like put up, why they're awesome. And even they've shared a talent, like one of the girls sang, one of the youth played her keyboard, stuff like that. So, and then meeting with if people have a youth coalition, meeting with the youth outside of that, like in a fun kind of format, like playing games through House Party. We've done that.
That's a good idea.
I just want to add to that.
It's so important to maximize your time when you're offline. Get out the room that you're in. If you have a front porch, go sit on the porch, a deck, whatever the case may be. Just get out of that space, kind of revive yourself, kind of just do something different. Don't, sit in front of in the computer when the meeting is done and try to go into something else. Remove yourself out of the location, kind of, just refresh yourself in the best way you know how.
All right. I think Kayla, did you raise your hand before, or did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say similarly, I had mentioned initially in this call, we did an icebreaker as well. What we actually did at our last coalition meeting was we gave members a copy of the questions from the, let's see, what was it called? The Drug IQ Challenge for Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. I'm not sure how many are familiar with that, but we actually had the coalition members go through and answer those. And it, sparked some good discussion, especially because we did it at the beginning of the meeting.
Great, thanks. So I think we're running out of time because we're supposed to go to 2:30. So the only other question we had, and obviously we're just going to share it with you guys. But if you feel like as you're planning things that if you feel like you might have concerns that these change in how you're reaching people, I saw that before, Michelle, but I don't know how to really answer Kylie's comment about just like technical. Of course, we're aware there are some of those technical difficulties that might arise, but that's an overall concern. But yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say something really quick as you're closing out, before you close out. I think it's just important to highlight because that can be a fear of a lot of people. And I think the important thing to remember is that number one, you're human. And there's a lot of different supports out there to help you through there. All you can do is when you're in a call, if something happens and you have technical difficulties, just, apologize. And I think that in the time that we're in, along with everybody sort of learning this whole new process, people are very understanding. So don't let that keep you from venturing out. And then utilize your resources that you have either within your own organization, either with your OPHI team or your BERT team to really help you to practice with these things to move forward. And then also remembering that you don't have to be the expert because there are experts that can help you through this, along with anything that has to do with like social media and those things. Take your time with them and make sure that they're right before you just put stuff out there.
Yeah, thanks for that. And so the only other question that we were thinking to discuss, but is maybe if a potential concern maybe around if making any of these changes, if it would impact any of your outcomes, if those have been any concerns of yours, just sort of in terms of like reach, the way that your strategies are being implemented, if change in the format. And so if you have any of those concerns, definitely reach out and we can talk through those and think about, it's more of a caveat that you would, know, but just you're keeping track of that all. Thanks everyone for the participation. If you have any follow-up questions, you can just go to the last slide, Vanessa, so we can just jump through. So any questions, comments, suggestions, feel free to reach out to your TA lead so we can help you out when you're coming to like moving forward with any of these technology or outreach with your community. If you want to know more about live streaming or the virtual platforms, definitely reach out to us and we can set you up, share all that information and those tools. And we'll definitely follow up with these questions to get some of the tools from the different jurisdictions that they shared, so we can make sure that everyone gets what they have shared with you out to you all. But if you have any questions to any of your peers, remember that you can email the Google groups that we send out, so that if you have a question, just send it out to that email. And this is a way that allows you to continue that communication discussion. Use that email as a discussion board. So if you have a question, put it out there to everybody so that everyone else can respond. So that's a way to just continue this conversation after the call.
Can you, Nicole, when you send out the information from this meeting, all the tools and things. Could you please add that email, meaning put it in the body of the email? Yes. Thank you.
Is there a preference? Because we use all three all the time on your end. Because we have the coordinator. Not everyone's on every list, so I guess it would go out
Right.
to all three lists.
You can. It's what I'm saying. You can put all three. It's okay. You can put all three in the body so that people know. There's a different listserv just for all the prevention coordinators. Then there's a listserv for OMPP, and then there's a listserv for MSPIF too. Generally, when we want something to go out to all the jurisdictions, we send it to the prevention coordinators list because those folks generally oversee all of the prevention programs at the local level, and then can share that with whomever. So, that's probably the best one.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye, guys.
Joy.
Nicole, does a transcript of this meeting from the chat go to when you send? How are you going to send this recording? I guess they will see the chat.
Hold on one second.